on Colonial Sports Center. Men's basketball is back home after a crucial road win against Youngstown State on Sunday. See how they fared against RMU-TV tonight as we go live from the UPMC Event Center for a live update. Colby Sherwin sat down with the Shia Klovenstein of the women's basketball team this week to discuss their season thus far. And Michael Deemer sat down with Dave Plunkett to get a look inside the recruiting process. All that and more on CSC.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Colonial Sports Center. I'm Tyler Gallo, as always, alongside Sam Goldberg. And Sam, first off, welcome to the show. And secondly, we have a lot of sports for people at home tonight, don't we?
Yes, we do. We have a lot of sports to talk about and break down. And speaking of breaking down, the men's team just finished off their matchup against IUPUI, and, well, they didn't fare well against the Colonials.
That's right. There is no joy in Moon Township as the mighty Colonials have struck out against the Jaguars. Let's send it over to Ethan Morrison, who's got more.
Thank you, guys. It's just an absolutely ugly game for Robert Morris tonight, losing by the final score of 66-56. Now, for the Colonials, Matt Mayers did have some success tonight, scoring 12 points in the losing effort. Khalil Spear also had an 11, but he struggled compared to the last game against Youngstown State. But IUPUI gets their first Division I win of the season after losing so many games in conference play leading up to this game, just losing by 3 to UIC in their last game. So they're figuring stuff out with the limited guys that they had on the floor. Bakari Lestrap had 18 points in this game, along with BJ Maxwell, who also had 18 points in the winning effort there. Not many answers for Robert Morris in this one, just struggling defensively, also offensively. He's turning the ball over 10 times in the first half. Really just didn't have an answer for the IUPUI offense in that second half. Just shot the ball a tad better, but just couldn't find the stops to, propel them over the Jaguars tonight. They've got another game on Saturday, their final home game of the season against UIC. They look to rebound after this atrocious loss tonight here at the UPMC Event Center. Guys, back to you.
Thank you so much, Ethan. Well, even though the Colonials did lose tonight against IUPUI, let's grab a look at what happened on Sunday to see if the Colonials beat Youngstown State. Let's see what happened. As you see right over there on your screen, the Colonials fared well against the Penguins, beating the Penguins by a score of 73-68. Khalil Spear, nearly perfect from the field, 10 of 11 with 7 rebounds and having himself a day, 27 points. Dwayne Cohill for the Penguins, 8 of 13 with 18 points.
And Youngstown State is really becoming a local rival game for RMU as they battle back and forth. They've played numerous times over the years, and now they're conference rivals. And, of course, Ethan Morrison didn't mince words in that last hit, but now let's see if he minced words in this hit as he takes a look at the trip to Youngstown State.
Robert Morris took the quick trip up I-376 to take on the Youngstown State Penguins Sunday afternoon. The Colonials were in search of a road win after dropping the last 2 games on their home floor this past week. They did just that, defeating the Penguins by a final score of 73-68. It was a dogfight all along as Khalil Spear led the way for the Colonials, going an impressive 10 for 11 from the field and a surprising 3 for 3 from beyond the arc, after coming into this game just 3 for 22 from three-point range. Spear spoke on finding his three-point shot in this game.
To be honest, my three-point shot is something that I always work on. I work on all elements of my game. I've just been having a lot of success in the paint, so you guys haven't seen me shoot as many threes as I could. But it's definitely something that I always keep in my back pocket, and today I just saw the way that the defense was guarding me. They were giving me a lot of space, so I knew if I wanted to be able to get in the paint, I was going to have to show them that I could shoot it. So my work is paying off. That's all I can say. Work's paying off.
Robert Morris trailed by as much as 10 points in this one, but came from behind late in the game to secure the road victory. Head coach Andy Toole spoke on getting the gritty win on the road.
It was huge. I mean, I think you oftentimes, when you look at weeks like this where you have 3-game weeks, knowing this will be the 3rd game, you're on the road, noontime start against a team that's playing so well, you don't necessarily look at that as one of the games that you're going to get out of the 3-game week. So for us to drop 2 at home, and again, 2, didn't play well against Detroit, obviously close, disappointing loss to Oakland, to be able to come here, be down by 10 late in the game and figure out a way to win, I think is huge for us. And, just really proud of the efforts that guys made, holding them to 8 points really in the last 7:47 of that game. Is something that we've been preaching for a long time about the defense, and the defense has not always been there, and it wasn't even there for certain parts of tonight, but when we needed it most, it certainly stepped up.
Robert Morris secured their first win in the Beagley Center for the first time since 2017. Robert Morris is back home for one more game this season when they take on UIC to try to salvage that season series on Saturday after dropping their first matchup 80-75 back in Chicago earlier this month. Reporting for Colonial Sports Center, I'm Ethan Morrison.
Now, we know how hard it is to win free Chick-fil-A for a year, especially in all the, the giveaways and promotions that RMU Athletics does. But, Sam, we have to take a look at this week's edition of CSC Comic of the Week to see just how hard it actually is. So to pick things up here, Daryl Sullivan of the football team is just absolutely breaking shots to start things off from 3 points, and it's not easy. It's a lot harder to do it when you're actually down there on the court, Sam.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's on the football team and not on the basketball team.
That's right. Look at this swish right here. Bam, nails it.
And then, by the grace of God, from the heavens, he banks it in to win a free year of Chick-fil-A. I mean, that was incredible. By the way, this happened last Sunday against Oakland.
Yeah, really just an impressive display of athleticism there. Here's another one, just colliding with Pete Matthews, and then Andy Toole looking like the Grim Reaper over there in the background as the team celebrates that. But, I mean, just a tremendous moment for the guy. Some things are bigger than sports there.
Yeah, believe it or not, it is the first time of this year that the Chick-fil-A half-court shot has been hit so far this year. So first time in this basketball season. So moving on now, with a little bit of moving on to Magic now. See how they'll move on to the women's basketball team as they played Purdue-Fort Wayne. See how they fared against Purdue-Fort Wayne, against the Mastodons. So you see right there, you know how we transition from the Comic of the Week. There was no funny business here in the game as the Colonials handled the Mastodons easily by a score of 60-48. You see right there, as Sol Castro, 11 points, 4 steals on the game. And Kloppenstein as well, having herself a nice day, is 14 points and 8 rebounds.
Now, last time these teams faced off, women's basketball absolutely stifled Cleveland State. Let's see if they can row past the Vikings one more time here in Cleveland at the Wolstein Center. And that's exactly what they did, despite a season-high 21 points from Nadia Dumas of the Vikings. RMU skated away with a 68-54 win. Ashaya Kloppenstein continuing her run of solid production. We'll talk about her in just a second. 16 points on 8 of 12 shooting, and of course Esther Castillo. While she didn't have her best shooting night from the field, she did hit the free throws when it counted and finished with 14 points.
That's right, Tyler. You know, our very own Colby Sherwin had a chance to sit down with Ashaya Kloppenstein to, kind of get a feel of how the women's team is playing. Colby, take it away.
So, what was the recruiting like for you out of high school? What was the process like?
I only played school ball, and I did not play AU. So, just local colleges, 4 years, but I could not commit to a 4-year right out of high school, so I said no thank you. And there was a school in Montana, a JUCO, that reached out, and just pretty much connections. A guy that I grew up with who just watched me play, he followed my basketball career and he worked there. And then a girl who was pretty much from where I'm from, I played against her dad in some AU, and she kind of knew about me that way, so she was like, hey, come on out. I was like, okay, it's a 2-year, I'll go. So that's pretty much it, like just local schools, but I couldn't commit to a 4-year, and JUCO came along, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that.
What's your favorite moment from playing JUCO basketball?
Oh my goodness. Probably my last season there. And it wasn't just like a specific moment, but our team was incredible. Like, we all loved each other and hung out all the time and were really close and competed really well. That was by far my favorite year there, my second year. Just the people in general, the connections, the community, it was unmatched, honestly.
So what was transferring like to a D1 school? What was the process like for that?
It's different. Like, it's different, obviously difficult, but it really wasn't super bad. Like, the people at Robert Morris made it a lot easier. My teammates, they were very accepting. I'm the only transfer in, so like I kind of felt like an oddball at first, but it became easier, and I kind of know my role, and we make it work.
Thank you for that, Colby and Ashaya. And now when we come back, things are going to get considerably more lax in here, so you don't want to miss it here on Colonial Sports Center.
When I first saw Turtle, my heart was full. Now anything but lonely.
We had this like deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a little bit of a lot of things,
but they're all pure love.
If I could go back and change it all, I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Or maybe it's just the little moments. If I could go back and change it all. If I could go back, I would. But I can't.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly and put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
Well, welcome back to Colonial Sports Center. And as our own Tyler Gallo said, keeping it lax here now as we move on, as our men's lacrosse team had their home opener against Bucknell. We have a little bit of a highlight reel for you from the game. Let's see how the Colonials fared. Right here, so in the first half, Bucknell up 2-0, and then right there, a beautiful pass right there from CJ Baroni and a Connor Davis snipe in the top left corner. Bucknell 3-0, and then here comes Bo Columbus, a do-it-yourself masterpiece running down the middle of the field, giving the Colonials their first goal of the game. And then Bucknell coming right back with Nick Cravato, another do-it-yourself masterpiece right there for Cravato. And Bucknell would extend their lead, but RMU said not so fast, as Tiger Clark scores here from a beautiful assist from Jake Boudreau. Moving on now, Bucknell again right there, making it 9-5 right there from an Alshon Terry goal, and Connor Davis had the assist. Now for RMU, there was a beautiful shot right there from Jake Boudreau, an absolute laser of a snipe. And then Tiger Clark followed it up again right there, as Jake Boudreau had his staple on the game right there with another assist. Then Tiger Clark said, hang on a second, I can do this myself. Little solo goal right there, but Richie Striano said, let me do this myself, threw the dagger into the Colonials' hearts. 14-12, your final score.
Now, during the women's lacrosse program history, they've gone 0-4 in their subsequent trips to Ohio State, or taking on Ohio State in any capacity. This time they traveled back to Columbus to take on the Buckeyes, so let's take a look and see how they fared inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. And unfortunately, RMU fell by a score of 17-5. Ohio State using a huge first half where they were leading by a score of 12, or they picked up 12 goals in the first half. Like you see there, Nicole Ferrara, 5 points on the night. And Jerica Obi, transfer from St. Bonaventure, first RMU goal, but really just not enough, as RMU fell pretty grossly in this one by 12 goals. Now, as you may know, CSN traveled to the Ohio State University, so let's take it over to Nate Breisinger, who takes a closer look at the trip to Ohio State University.
In what is typically a boisterous college football campus, Ohio State stayed on the turf but turned to a different sport with the Robert Morris women's lacrosse team in town to take on the Buckeyes at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. The early season tilt between the two schools marked the 5th meeting all-time, in which Ohio State has won all 4 prior matchups. Fresh off of a MAC regular season crown and an NCAA tournament appearance, the Colonials looked to pull an upset against the talented Buckeyes to start the year. From the jump, Ohio State's quickness outraced RMU as they jumped out to an early 4-0 lead. With the Colonials needing an answer, Jordan Anderson delivered RMU's first goal of the year. From there on, Ohio State poured on the goals. For RMU, Bailey Christensen and transfer Jerica Obi tallied goals in the middle of the contest, and Colleen Tift and Mackenzie Bell scored the last 2 goals of the game in a 17-5 rout by Ohio State. Despite a lowly performance, head coach Katrina Silva emphasized the building blocks from this matchup.
We're growing, right? We're really young. We knew we were really young. Most of our team hasn't been playing over the last year or so. We had all those upperclassmen last year. So we have a lot to improve on. But the best part was we actually improved. Second half, we went perfect on clears. That's huge. We turned over the ball a million times trying to get it out of the defensive end. In the first half, we addressed the things we've been addressing at practice, and then, when there's another team out here, all of a sudden things start to click a little bit better.
The Colonials will move forward from this loss as they take on Canisius on Saturday as they look to improve their team chemistry and aim for win number 1 of the year. For Colonial Sports Center, I'm Nathan Breisinger.
And for more content like that, you're going to want to check out colonialsportsnetwork.com for all the latest in Robert Morris athletics. We got you covered with anything you may want to know about the teams that are currently playing on campus and ones that maybe aren't playing, as we'll see later in this show tonight. Again, student-run platform. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at RMU_CSN and our new Instagram at Colonial Sports Network. But when we come back, we got a lot more for you here on Colonial Sports Network. We got a sit down with Dave Plungus as well as some more as our game to watch. So stay tuned here for Colonial Sports Center.
Bring it. Time out, guys. I'm late to dinner. My mom's gonna kill me. Catch you guys later.
Mom wants us home. Okay. Bye, guys. You guys need a ride?
Sure. Yeah. All right. How about some one-on-one?
I gotta go eat, man. Sorry, I'll see you later.
Before we celebrate the freedom most Americans have, we must fight for the freedom all Americans deserve. Because all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
Welcome back here to Colonial Sports Center. Now, the softball team kicked off their season over the weekend as they took part at the North Carolina A&T Invitational. They played 5 games, a 5-game slate to kick off their 64-game slate this season. So we'll take a look and see how they did in their 5-game spell over the weekend. As you see here, a pretty good first day. Friday, they won 2-0 and 5-3. By the way, Sam, the first time this team has ever started its season with consecutive extra inning affairs.
Yeah, it was a really good job there in game number 1 by Dana, by Dana Batakis to shut the door on North Carolina A&T. She did an absolute fantastic job. 8 shutout innings, 3 hits given up, and only 2 walks.
Yeah, an opening day shutout, but that's not all that happened in this series as they take it to the second day of action. Their only loss came to that second game of the first day, 4-1 to North Carolina A&T, but they really just dominated the Howard Bison in these 2 games. Took them out in 5 innings in that only game on Sunday, 8-0 win. This team is really rolling as they head into their Winthrop Invitational this weekend, Sam.
Yeah, nothing like taking care of business. Just a nice little business trip for the softball team.
So now we're going to run on over to the track and field, who is in action over the weekend. Take a look and see how they fared in their latest invitational. And so here at the Kent State Doug Raymond Invitational, Katura Hunter continues to just make her mark on the track and field program. First in the weight throw, 17.99 meters. I mean, you almost expect that out of her over the weekend. And then, of course, Tara Goldegram finishing 4th, and then a couple of other players. Tyler Slaney in the 5,000 meters, 16.23, and Gavin Fitzgerald was pretty close on 9th for the cross-country guys. But, yeah, it was a really solid invitational for this team.
Yeah, that's right. And now moving on to football. But you might be thinking, how are we moving on to football if they're not playing? Well, our very own Michael Deemer sat down with David Plungus to get a vibe of how recruiting works.
Being at Robert Morris, you don't probably necessarily attract the 5-star recruits like the Alabamas and Georgias
You don't think so?
of college football.
We can get them.
But how do you find these people? You have the national spotlight for those kind of 5 stars, but how do you find these people who maybe slip through the cracks?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for us is, what Coach Clark's philosophy, we all believe in it, we all buy into it, is we want to get our main areas. We want to hit Western PA, number 1. We want to hit all of Ohio. Then we dive into Maryland, we dive into New Jersey, and we dive into Florida because our head coach and a lot of coaching on our staff are from Florida. We try to spot recruit those areas, and those are our prime areas. And it's developing great high school relationships. It's developing relationships with the coach and the player. So those are our main areas. But nowadays, it's a lot different from when I got started into it is social media. You're able to find different guys that fall through the cracks through Twitter, through Snapchat, through all that, through Instagram, of guys that maybe aren't there, right? And it takes a lot more work now because there's so much information at your fingertips 24/7, so you got to be in tune to it. But we'll try to find guys in our areas, number one. If not, there'll always be guys that come up that may be a special talent that got overlooked by maybe a MAC school or an FBS school that we can say, hey, this might be a guy for us. It's not in our area, but he can come help us.
So a hiccup you might have experienced is COVID during the pandemic. Also the spring season, it went from fall to spring. How did that affect you as a recruiter, probably?
It helped.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because just being able to use more technology, right? Like, did you know what Zoom was before COVID?
No.
No one did, right? Zoom, Google Meet, Rob Morris uses Google Meet, right? So we were able, in my opinion, we probably had one of our best classes we've ever recruited during COVID. One, because these guys fell under the radar, right? Two, you're able to develop a lot of relationships with them and their family just by doing virtual meetings. So now, as a preliminary for us as recruiters, before we go visit their family, before they come here, we do a virtual meeting. So you can have that one-on-one, personal, face-to-face, virtually, and show them what we have here to offer. So I think that helped us in terms of just getting out ahead and developing those relationships, not just by phone call, but virtual, seeing each other one-on-one. So me personally, I thought it helped. I before even COVID, I really wasn't into FaceTime. I know everyone does that, right? And then now, that's all I do with recruits. Just FaceTime them and do one-on-ones with them and see their face, because that's what gets them here, and that's what helps you develop a relationship.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover their unique mix of all kinds of traits.
Where'd Wiley go? Where's Wiley? Ah, there she is. Pa?
Do you remember being an ancient wolf? Do you ever feel the call of the wild?
You're a renegade cop, and I'm a con woman with nothing to prove. But together, we could really solve this murder. They're a little bit of a lot of things. But all of them are pure love.
Yes.
How do you think recruiting has probably changed over the past couple of years? You probably said it's like social media and all that, but maybe like take a deep dive of how social media has probably changed it.
It's expedited everything. The higher ups, and they've been doing it for a while now, but I mean, they're recruiting 8th graders, they're recruiting freshmen. But just Twitter and the access to all the information is just so fast now. Mm-hmm. Like, a guy gets out there, he gets one offer, he posts it, right? Now everyone knows about it. And it just got faster and faster and faster and faster. So you have to be on top of it. If you're not on top of it, if you're not talking to recruits daily, you're going to fall behind. And you have to be, it's got to be 24/7 and 365. That's what the job is now. And if you're not, then you'll fall behind.
Do you think it might change in the future? You say it probably has expedited more, but do you think it'll be even, probably like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, do you think it's probably changed even more?
Yeah, I think it's going to continue to change. Now you have, and it doesn't phase us, but now you get the NIL deals. Mm-hmm. You got all that, which coaches aren't allowed to be in, but obviously you know that people of the program, people surrounding the program help with that. That has nothing to do with what we do here, but at the upper levels, yeah. So now it's changed from that realm. A lot of players are be able to make money, which they should be able to, but now it's how much money can you get them? And those 5 stars, those big guys, go to those type of schools, right? So it's just going to get faster and faster and faster, and social media, like anything else, speeds up. So I don't think it's going to change as a whole. It all depends on what happens with the NIL deal and how that changes, or how it speeds up, or how it becomes more legalized, maybe through coaches to players. But it's it's probably going to change like it's been. It changes every year. It changed from 1980s when you had to go on the road and use a map to go find high schools to go go find recruits and coaches. It changed that in the 90s. Just like film, right? Like film back in the day, you have to use a reel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now then it was VHS, and then it was DVD, and now everything's on the cloud. So everything's changing, and you got to be able to adapt to it.
Thank you so much for that inside look into recruiting, Coach Plungus and Michael, for that one. And of course, let's take it back to some sports that were in action over the last couple weeks. Take a look at the top 5 plays of the last week. So kicking off things at number 5, we're going to head to the men's lacrosse team who was in action like we saw against Bucknell. We saw things off Elliot Holden. Look at this pantomime right here. He stops, waits, comes back, and whoosh, fires it right in there for the nice shot. Look at this rocket. Look at this absolute move. An absolute seed from Elliot Holden right past Bucknell. Really no chance to stop that one.
Alrighty, and moving on to number 4, we're going to head to the Robert Morris and Youngstown State game. Robert Morris down 64-63, but Michael Green calling out the play. He goes to Williams. Williams back to Green. Green looking around, finds a wide open Cam Ferris. 4-3, bang, hits it. The dagger 3 for the Colonials, and they didn't look back. That is how they get momentum and win the game.
Yeah, now we're moving to number 3. So we're going to see MG3 here once again with a little quarterback pass deep to Spear with the slam, who nearly jumps over Jalen Moore. Look at this. Wham! Right in there. Nice little dunk there from Khalil Spear.
All right, and moving on to number 2 here in our top 5. It's that MG3 Khalil Spear connection. MG3 looking around, looking for Spear, and the lob and the jam. What a pass right there from MG3, and Spear was all over that one.
Really love that connection over these last couple weeks. And now here's Oakland getting their little chance. And Jalen Moore waits, gets it inside of Jamal Kane, and he says, I'm going to get the better one out of these 3. And that is our number 1 play of the day. Look at Jamal Kane just leaping through air traffic control right there.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Gallo, do you see that over there?
What's that? What's that, Sam?
It looks like it's our games to watch for this weekend.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah. So first, starting off things right here, game to watch right here is the Robert Morris women's softball team taking on Townsend. This is a big matchup for the Colonials. Townsend, a really strong program in softball. A little bit of players to watch. Yamero Sakura, excuse me for watching that name. 500 average, 7 hits, 3 RBIs, and Sione Byers hitting 677, 2 home runs, and 3 RBIs. And also be on the lookout for Taylor Reinhardt as well.
It's really been a solid start to the season for Meadow Sacador, the transfer from Maryland, like you said, batting 500. But I'm going to move over to the women's side. Women's basketball, keep it on the women's sports. They're my team to watch this weekend as they take on Wright State on Friday. And guess what? I'll be on the call for ESPN Plus with Adam Gusky. I'm looking at Ashaya Klopfenstein this weekend. We saw her interview earlier with Colby Sherwin. She's going to be continuing her dominance over this recent stretch, putting up double-digit performances. And then you're really going to want to watch out for Jada Roberson. This is a team, RMU has won 3 straight games. Yeah, they won in a forfeit, 2-0, but they swept the series last year against a far superior team. And Wright State has really fallen on hard times with the loss of Tyler Frierson for this team. So this is the game that I'm absolutely looking at this weekend for RMU. So Sam, there's a lot of more games this weekend we got to look at. I mean, that's not the only softball games. Take a look at a couple of the other ones that are coming up this week as we take a look at our upcoming games. Softball, they're going to take on Ball State and Albany, 10 a.m. and 12:30. And then women's basketball, like I mentioned, Wright State, 7 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, and then you see right there on Saturday, February 19th, track is heading over to the Kent State tune-up. That is all day on Saturday. And then finally, we've got softball and Townsend and Winthrop. That is my game to watch against Townsend. But then the Winthrop game is at 3 p.m. Men's lacrosse will take on Stony Brook at noon. Women's lacrosse will take on Canisius at noon. Men's basketball versus UIC at 7 p.m.
Really a full slate of games for a Saturday schedule. And then a Sunday, a couple of them is softball in Albany and women's basketball in Northern Kentucky. All of these games for softball are taking place in Rock Hill, South Carolina at Terry Field on the campus of Winthrop. So, Sam, I really want to know what your impression is of this softball team coming into their recent stretch of games. Watched every game over this last week.
Yeah, softball, they really impressed over the weekend, winning 4 of 5 over the weekend. Of course, you can't beat a team all 3 times. They did fall to North Carolina A&T. But this team looked really good. They looked together. They looked like they wanted to play as a unit. And again, this upcoming tournament here, the Winthrop tournament, should gauge to see how well this Colonials team willed fair.
That's right, really only doing it without the help of the long ball. Just one round tripper all weekend long. That was by Taylor Reinhardt, the transfer from Siena. But that's all we have for you here tonight on Colonial Sports Center. For Samuel Goldberg, I've been Tyler Gallo, and we will see you next week, next Thursday, for another episode of Colonial Sports Center. Stay tuned.